This is Dr. Sunil Mahagaonkar, Faculty of Mechanical Engineering Department, Government Polytechnic, Mumbai. So in the last 8 sessions, we have discussed the first chapter in the design of machine elements. So in that, I have covered the phases of design, factor of safety, and the use of factor of safety, selection of factor of safety. After that, we have studied mechanical properties of the materials and the different types of stresses that are induced in the machine elements. So in that, we have studied the stresses in the axial loading and the stresses produced in the combined stresses or eccentric loading. So after studying this, so we discussed stress concentration, creep, and fatigue. With noting all these 6, we discussed the theories of failures. In that, we have covered normal stress theory, shear stress theory, and the maximum distortion energy theory. And these theories, where to use and how to use. So these things are all discussed in the last class, the last total 8 sessions. So once again, I will welcome you all for my model number 9. So here we will go for the problem analysis and solution for it. So now we will move to the first slide. So at the end of the session, students are going to learn the identification of the problem. That means here, whatever the given problem is there, we have to identify. So in which category it comes, whether it comes under finding out the dimensions with all given data, or else with all given dimension and some data to find what are the induced stresses in the elements. So there are 2 types of problems by the way we can solve any design problem. The first one is we can solve it for the dimensions if you are knowing what is the strength of the material and the related data. And the second one is if you are knowing the dimension and the forces, the other related data. So in that case, we can find what are the induced stresses, or we can find even factor of safety for that. So this is the way to identify the problem. Again, in the identification of the problem, you should know whether the problem is related to the mechanical properties, whether it is related to the torsional shear stress, bending stress, and the or combined this type of stresses. If it is there, that also we have to identify. So basically, we have to be very strong in the theories. Once you study thoroughly in the theory, so then you can apply and the problem will become very simple. So without attaining theory, if you go for any problem, so then in that case, we cannot solve, we cannot reach to a solution. So this is applied to anything. So first of all, you try to identify the problem. What is the problem and how it can be solved? and prepare the background for this, and then go for finding the solution. The second one is the writing the given data. So what the students generally they will do it. So without going through the given data, just they will read the problem, and then they will start attaining they will start with the solution. So that is the wrong way of doing. The right way is to write down what are the given data correctly. So in that, if the things are given, usually the torque, it is in Newton meter. So the answer what you are getting is in millimeter, dimensions that are not in meters. If any mechanical component dimensions are there, or a diameter of a piston or a diameter of a connecting rod, so in that case it is not in meters, it is in millimeters or centimeters. So if you want to find in millimeters, you can get the dimensions in meters, but it will come under fraction. So generally for a smaller things we will go for the millimeter, and a larger the things we are going for the dimensions in meter, kilometer, like that. Okay, so writing the given data, so that is it covers around 10% of your problem. It means in the 25% you are able to find out what is the solution of 10% of the total problem you can cover it. So if you write it properly the given data, so then it becomes very easy. So like that, kilowatts is there, kilo means 10 raised to 3, mega means 10 raised to 6. So the student must be thorough with the units, the analysis of a given data. So once you write the data, so from which data, what are the things you can get it? Say, for example, a torque, if you use it, what is the torque equation? The torque equation, or it is power related, right? Power is equal to 2 pi n into the torque divided by 60 will get it. If you are knowing this equation, then you are knowing the three variables. There are one is the RPM, another one is the power, and another one is the torque. So in that, if the two things are known to you, then the third we can find out. So like this, we find if the power is given, you can find out the torque. For that, you must know what is the speed. If in the data, if the speed is not available, and you want to find out what is the dimension, in that case we should go for assuming the data. So that is the assumption of the data. So for example, factor of safety, some problems they will give factor of safety, some problems they will not give. In that case we have to assume the data. Everything is given if the power is not given or if the force is not given. So you have to assume certain data. Without that we cannot solve it. Say for example, a screw jack you are designing, and he has not given what is the pulling force applied at the end of the rod. So the pulling force applying at the end of the rod, it is not around 2000 newtons. So hardly a person, how much he can pull it, it is around 250 to 300. That is 2500 to 250 newtons. 250 newtons or 300 newtons. It is sufficient. That means 300 newtons is nothing but 30 kg. So these things the student must know it. Otherwise, if you assume 2000, so nobody will use then your screw jack. So identifying what is asked. So you should not make hurry. You should go for what are the what are the things he has asked, and accordingly had to plan, prepare, and then try to attain the problem. Adopting a right procedure, had to think it, plan it, and correct procedure, you have to adopt it. So you have to make a lot of practice of how to use the calculators. Many times, some of the things that sometimes the students are not knowing the things, because basically you are coming from 10th level. So here, after 10th, this is a design, it is in the third year subject. But even though I'm telling you, try to make the things. So how to find the cubic root, how to find the square root, how to get a quadratic solutions. That is, if a quadratic equation is there, the direct solutions you can find out with the use of the calculators. Or if cubic equation it is there, that is ax cube plus bx square plus c, x plus constant is equal to 0. In that case, if you want to find what is a, b, c, d, etc., or x value, if you want to find out, in that case, we should, that is a cubic equation. If the cubic curve is there, so the cubic equation we can use the calculator, how to find out that quadratic and cubic equations, and finding the right solution is the last thing. And now we will go for the general flow process of a solution. So you should not by heart a problem. So usually the students, what they are doing, some teacher, if he explain in the class, and without knowing the basics of those things, so just they will put it and write once, twice, thrice, and try to remember those things. It is not the way. The correct way, the correct approach is, don't solve any problem with blindly. Before solving, you must know it. And if you are not knowing, you should take the help of your friends or the help of your teacher, and then try to understand the things, and then try to solve that problem. So a general flow process for a solution is given here. The first thing is identification of the problem, as I explained in the last thing. So writing the given data and identifying what is asked. Say here mega means 10 raised to 6, that is mega Newton or megawatt. Gigawatt or giganewton per meter square, 1 Pascal. What is 1 Pascal? 1 Pascal is equal to 1 Newton per meter square. Okay, this is in SI unit. That is the unit of stress in SI unit. So if I want to convert 1 Newton per meter square into 1 Newton per mm square, that means you must know what are the things. 1 megapascal, that is 1 mega means 10 raised to 6 Newton per meter square is equal to 1 Newton per mm square. So like this, if you are knowing these things, so then we can find, we can write down the data. So that means you either, if you are writing in meters, all the things you write in meters. If you are writing in millimeters, dimension these things, so in that case you have to convert it in millimeters. So whatever the left side equation, the units are there, the same thing it should be there in the right side. That you have to remember. And if some data are missing here, so in that case we have to assume the data. The given assumption also we have to make it. So there are bifurcation of the data, that is the data other than the strength and factor of safety. That is power, maybe a force, maybe dimensions, whatever it is. So here on the right side, the data is related to the strength and factor of safety. So data is related to the strength and the factor of safety. Here the yield strength, ultimate strength, they will give yield strength, factor of safety. Then the allowable shear stress can be found by using this equation. This all I have covered it, but anyhow, this is just a revision on all those things. Sigma allowable is equal to SYT, that is a yield strength upon factor of safety for ductile. And if it is a material is brittle, in that case you have to go for the ultimate strength by factor of safety. This is allowable or permissible limit. This is tensile stress. Tensile or compressive. Tensile or compressive, we are using sigma. And allowable shear stress. And if you want to solve the problem with the maximum shear stress theory, so this again you have to multiply this 1 by 0.5. It is 0.5 of SYT upon factor of safety. And for distortion energy theory, it is tau allowable is equal to 0.577 of SYT upon factor of safety. In some problems, they will not give the type of the material, and they will give directly allowable stress and permissible stresses, so that we can use it for the next. So if you are knowing those things directly, you can use it, or if you are not knowing it, if the strength are given, then this is the way how to find out the stresses. And the other data is also where to take it, assume the relevant data, and then after that adopt the right procedure to solve the problem, and then finding the right solution, that is your goal. So now we will go for the problems which are based on the properties of material. In that, once again, just go through this. It is for the brittle material stress and strain curve, and this is for the green one. It is shown for the mild steel, the ductile materials. And these are the proportional limits, and up to this mark only we are using. We are not designing anything more than the proportional limit in any of the design. So because after this proportional point, the permanent deformation takes place, hence we are using the strength up to the yield strength only. So since the brittle material, the yield strength, we cannot have this one, so that's why we are using the brittle material, because there is no, it will not having any necking portion here. So hence we are using the finally the strength of the material is equal to brittle material. And again, with the use of factor of safety, we can find what is the allowable tensile stress. You can get it from that. Okay, this is about the true stress and true engineering stress strain curve. True stress is one where the dimensions, the stress is there at the neck portion. After the deformation, the area will be reduced because there is an elongation. And this is the actual stress which you are calculating, that is known as true stress. And this is the engineering stress where nominal dimensions we are taking. This diameter we are considering, whereas for the true stress, this dimension we are taking. Because of that, the value of this stress, it will be more than the engineering stress. So now let us go for a problem, the example 1. So try to read the problem very clearly, and even when you are preparing anything in the house, try to read the things loudly, so that the reflection from the wall also, it will you to come to your ears, and that will help you to memorize the things. A mild steel rod of 12 mm diameter was tested for a tensile strength with a gauge length of 60 mm. So here gauge length means the actual length, that is before or using it to the finding out this one, that is before applying it. So the length which is there, that is called the gauge length, and the diameter is 12 mm. Following observations were made or were recorded. The final length is 80 mm. After stretching it, it is 80 mm you are getting. Final diameter is 7 mm. See here, before it is 12 and after it is 7. Yield point or yield load, it is given here. Yield load is 3.4 kilonewtons. Ultimate load is 6.1 kilonewtons. Calculate yield stress, ultimate tensile stress, percentage reduction in the area, and the fourth one is the percentage elongation. This is a very simple problem. So here the given data, the diameter of the rod D is equal to 12, gauge length, it is actual length, it is equal to 60 millimeter. If it is given in meter, you take it in millimeter. So final length, it is L dash, it is 80 mm. So L is for the actual length. Final diameter D dash. So we have to write down what is, simply don't write D dash here, you should write final diameter D dash, which is equal to 7 mm. Yield load is Py, which is equal to 3.4 kilonewtons, which is 3.4 kilo is 10 raised to 3. So if you multiply it, you can get it is newtons. Ultimate load, similarly, Pu is the ultimate load, 6.1 kilonewton, that is 6.1 into 10 raised to 3 newtons. Here the diameters, usually the students, when they will solve the problem, they will directly take this and try to solve it without mentioning what is D, what is L, what is L dash. Students are knowing what do you mean L dash, what is L, but the assessor who is going to assess your paper, so that person will not come to know. So for what purpose I used that dimension, D, it is for what. So that's why basically you should write all these things in the given data clearly. So diameter of the rod, gauge length is L, final diameter D dash. Like this we have to write it clearly so that the examiner will come to know that yes, you have made the nomenclature of the abbreviations for the problems. Okay. So after writing the given data, so then you have to see it, the assumed data, is there missing or what? So for that you must write the things what he want from the problems. So that means to calculate what are the things to be calculated. He has asked for yield stress, ultimate tensile, percentage of reduction, percentage of elongation. Yield stress, that is Newton force divided by the area. So for that you must know what is the force and area. Diameter with the dimension D we can find out. So like this you will come to know immediately what are the dimensions. If they are not available, so in that case we have to make certain assumptions. So to calculate yield stress, which is equal to Sy, which is equal to load divided by the area. Area is equal to pi d square by 4. Is it actual area? Is it true stress area or engineering stress area? It is an engineering stress area because we have taken it is equal to 12. D, it is equal to 12 millimeter. That is engineering stress area for the engineering stress. The second one, see, ultimate tensile stress SU is equal to PU by A, and the initial area A, which is equal to, here you can make A dash. Ultimate, yes, it is not A dash. Initial area is A, which is equal to pi d square by 4. And area for the engineering stress, it is for the ultimate. And this is for the yield. Percentage of reduction in the area. Percentage of reduction in the area is equal to A minus A divided by A. That is the initial area minus the final area after stretching divided by the initial area. You will get in percentage of reduction in the area. Similarly, we can calculate the percentage of elongation. It is L dash minus L upon L dash. So this length L dash is generally more than the actual length. This is the stretched length. It is more than the actual length. L dash minus L upon L dash into 100. So where here it is this is A, small a, it is for the true area. It is given by pi dash square d dash square divided by 4. So that is the true, that is 7 millimeter. So using this 7 millimeter, we can find this true area, and with this we can calculate. So if you are knowing these things, the problem is over. That means writing the given data and the calculation, this is covers 50%, almost 50% of the solution. It means the examiner will not give 50 marks for that, but this, it is the importance, in the importance, the 50% is there. So solution. So yield stress is equal to Sy is equal to this, and then try to put what is the dimensions here. And so if you know, if you are knowing, practice that calculations. So try to get the correct area, and each thing when you are making it, you should write the dimensions. Is it in millimeter or millimeter square? So area means it is a multiplication of length and breadth. So what you will get is millimeter square. So here it is the rod diameter, hence it is d square, that means a millimeter square. You will get it. So similarly, this, the other one, ultimate tensile stress, we can find out from this. SU is equal to PU upon A. So here PU is 6.1 kilo Newton. That's why it is multiplied by 1000 and divided by 113. 113 is the area. So if you do it, so you can find out what is SU, the tensile stress. So only the difference is this is the yield point, the load, and this is the ultimate load. Yield load is less than the ultimate, so that's why the stress is less, and here the stress will be more. And after this, we can find out what is percentage of reduction in the area. A minus A divided by A into 100. So using this, we can find it is 66.6 percentage, where A is equal to true area and D dash is the true diameter, is equal to 7 mm, and A is equal to again 7 square. It is it's not 72, it is 7 square is equal to 38.5 mm square. So percentage of elongation, you can get it is equal to 25%. So like this we can solve the problem. This is for the solution of the first problem. So here, if you are knowing it, so then also you should write the equations. So in the while writing the given data, again you are writing this, and afterwards also you are writing it. So that makes you make an habit of writing the equations always. Repeating and writing the equation, it is necessary, because if you are repeated so many times and if you write so many times, so it will go into our mind and it will be remained forever. So next we will go for the example 2. A reciprocating steam engine connecting rod is subjected to a maximum load of 65 kilonewtons. Find the diameter of the connecting rod at the thinnest part if the permissible tensile stress is 35 megapascal. So here the diameter of the connecting rod, that means the section, is it square or round? It is definitely a round in shape. Actually this if you take a connecting rod, you will get the bigger end, it will be at the crank side, and the smaller end will be at the piston side. So the area is gradually increasing it. So just I will show those things here. Let us say this is a cylinder and this is a piston. It is connected by means of a connecting rod and a crank, and a reciprocating, a maximum load is 65 kilonewtons. At that load you try to find out what is the area. Once you can calculate the diameter of this connecting rod. So this portion where this is the connecting rod, where it connects the piston, this is called smaller end, and this is actually the bigger end. Of course, in this problem, what they are taken is here's the thinnest part. That means here it is where the area is less, so there the failure occurs. So this is a crank, and this is what the connecting rod, and this end is generally larger because to get a moment of inertia, moment will be more. So hence to get, because the crank is rotating, and because of this end you have to keep it larger. So hence it is called a bigger end for the crank, and this is a bigger end for the connecting rod. So the diameter of the connecting rod at the thinnest part, if the permissible tensile stress is 35 megapascal. Mega means 10 raised to 6 Pascal is 1 Newton per meter square. So here the data, you try to write down the given data. P maximum is equal to 65 kilonewton, which is 65 into 10 raised to 3 Newton, and the permissible tensile stress, it is sigma P, which is equal to 35 megapascal. That is 1 megapascal is equal to 1 Newton per mm square. So hence this is 35 MPa is equal to 35 Newton per mm square. And what to calculate? To calculate the diameter of the connecting rod for a minimum section. Solution. Let D be the diameter of the connecting rod. The applied maximum load, that is P maximum, is equal to the resisting area multiplied by the principal stress. So actually this is the thing here where you will get, if you consider this mechanism, when you will get the maximum stress, the maximum, the pressure, this is a reciprocating steam engine, that means steam enters at this point, right? And because of this moves in this direction. That means when this point is at the top, dead center, so at that point you will have the maximum pressure on that. So this is about a clearance volume we are calling. So when this steam pressure it acts at the very small volume, when it expands, so then it will transfer the maximum stress, and whatever the pressure which is acting on this, the P maximum, that is the maximum load is 65 kilonewton it bears. If the load is this, so if I know what is the stress, so stress is nothing but the internal resistance. It is Newton per mm square. If this internal resistance, if you are knowing it, and multiplied by the resisting area where it is going to get it, so this area multiplied by the permissible stress is equal to the applied load. So hence the resisting area A is equal to P maximum by sigma P. Resisting area E is equal to P maximum by sigma P. That is load divided by sigma P is given. So here we are interested to find the dimension D. So that's why we have to find the area with this equation, and then use pi d square by 4 is equal to that. You can find the rest of the things. So A is equal to pi d square by 4, and d square is equal to 4 into A by pi. So d is the under root of this. So what you will get is d is equal to 48.62. So which generally can take it to more than always. This is the designed dimension is always more than the actual dimension. We cannot prepare d is equal to 48.62 only. In that case, you can make is equal to 50 mm. Don't take 46 millimeter. So always more than the calculated one. So now, like the next problem is the third. Again, it is related a problem with a governor. The maximum tension in the lower link of a Porter governor is a Porter governor. It has got a spindles. These are called arms, and this governor, you can use it for operating a valve, closing or opening of the valves, for letting out the steam or letting out the other things, a fluid flow. It can control the flow by means of this. So, and this is here the pulley will be there, and that is connected to the part. So based upon the load, if the higher speed is there, in that case it will go up, and if the speed becomes lower, it comes down. So this is called a sleeve. So this thing you have already studied in theory of machine. So you should know when I say Porter governor is there, so you must know what is the Porter governor. So that's why these are called application oriented problems. The maximum tension in the lower link of Porter governor is 580 newtons, and the maximum stress in the link is 30 newton per mm square. The stress is given 30, and again the load is 580. If the link is circular cross section, determine the diameter. It is same as the problem of the steam. Only in the steam we are going for the calculation of the connecting rod, and here we are going for the calculation of the arm, lower link. This lower link means this. These are the two lower links. So with the increase of the speed, it will be more stretched here. It will go outside. This is due to the centrifugal. There are two forces that are acting. So because of the centrifugal force, this is Ft. So it will throw out, and this will try to pull this one. So thereby you will get the stress will be there at this point. So the given data, P maximum load is given. Permissible tensile stress is sigma P is equal to 30 Newton per mm square. It is okay. This is given in millimeter square, and this is in RPM. This is in newtons. And to calculate the diameter of the Porter, governor link, this diameter of this section. Solution, let D be the diameter of the link. Again, you can say the applied maximum load P maximum is equal to resisting area multiplied with the permissible stress. If the load is this and resisting area and the permissible stress, so when this is moving in this direction, so what type of stress it is created? Tensile. So the resisting area, if D is the diameter, then pi d square by 4 is the area multiplied by the stress, that is sigma T or sigma P multiplied, then you will get the load. So here are you calculating the load? No. What you are calculating? The diameter. Once again you try to find out the area. So this all comes under the background preparation of this. And thereby you are writing this equation, and then we are going for calculation of area, which is equal to P maximum upon sigma P. 580 by 30, from this you will get 19.33. The resisting area. Again find the diameter of the link, and what we are getting is 4.96, which is equal to 5 millimeter. So in this way, for any problem, try to understand if Porter governor is given, what type of governor it is. So you must, background preparation must be there. So then only we can do it very easy. So that's why design, we are saying, when we are saying a design, that means it comes all the things, that means subjects will cover. So you should know the knowledge of theory of machine, materials, like that. So we will go for the next problem, that is example 4. A square tie bar of 20 by 20 mm in section carries a load. A square tie bar. So then here you should understand what do you mean by a tie bar. Tie bar is nothing but you are tying it. Some portion, let's say you are using in railways for the third one, that is it will be tied with hangers. So that is called the sleeper coaches. That is the second one. Usually the first ground, that is if the 3 sheets are there, the lower, middle and the upper one. The middle one, we are having the chains are there we are holding it. So we are not using bar, there is a chain. So like this, so that thing, it is known as a tie bar. So, and the section of the tie bar is 20 mm by 20 mm, that means it is a square section. It is attached to a bracket by means of 6 bolts. So 6 bolts are there, it is, and that is a supporting member. And now you calculate the bolt diameter if the maximum stress in the tie bar is 150 and the stress in the bolt is 75 Newton per mm square. This is the given thing. So unless and until, if you draw a certain sketch, so if you draw a sketch, if you understand that, so then you can, it will be solved very easily. So let us say this is a bracket portion in the top view. Just I am showing you, this is a bracket, which is supportive bracket to this tie rod, where the force is applied. Say this is actually the other way, it is having certain force. This force is split in 2 parts. Here, instead of making angular one, something if you use it for the vertical, so then this is the case of this. Okay, so this load is hanged by means of attaching to a wall. So this, if P is the force, and it will have 2 components in this problem, whereas for this what we have taken, he has given is the vertical one. So there is no angular. Okay. So the problem may be like this also. So a square tie bar of 20 mm section carries a load. This is the load. What is the load of that? Carry and the bracket is 6 mm. Calculate the diameter of the bolt. If the maximum stress in the tie bar is 150 Newton per mm square and the bolt is 75. Calculate the diameter of the bolt. So you just write down the given data. So when you are writing, again you go for the cross-sectional area of the tie bar. A1 is equal to this 20 mm by 20 mm, that is 400 Newton per 400 mm square. Total load, this load is shared by how many bolts are there? 6 bolts. The maximum stress in the tie bar, it is given sigma maximum tie, abbreviated as sigma maximum tie bar, is equal to 150 Newton per mm square, and maximum stress in the bolt is sigma maximum bolt is equal to 75 Newton per mm square. So now to calculate the diameter of the bolt. So for this, you just go through what is the, has he given the load? No, he has not given the load. So then the background preparation starts. That means the load is what? Load is equal to stress into area. So the stress is given, the area is given. In that case, I can find what is the load. That's how we have to proceed. So here, what you are going to calculate, it is the diameter of the bolt, as I said. And when you are calculating the diameter of these bolts, so one must know what is the force which is acting here. For this load multiplied by the area of this section, if you are knowing it, you can find the stress. Or in this problem, what are the things he has given? Just go through that. Maximum stress in the tie bar, it is 150 Newton per mm square, and this one is 150, and the dimension is also given. Okay, so with the given dimension, if the given dimension is given, that is the square section, that is the resistive area, multiplied by the stress, what you will get? The force. So this force is applied at this point, and it is beared by how many bolts? 6 bolts. So that means for a single bolt, since it is acting at the center, this is the top view and this is the front view here. So this is distributed to all this one. So if P is certain load, you are getting it, and that is divided by 6. When you divide it by 6, then you can calculate the load for each of the bolt, and then after calculating the load for each of the bolt, then you can, if you are knowing the stress of the bolt, then you can find the diameter. So the stress in the bolt is 75, it is given. So from that you can calculate. So this type of preparation, it is needed for solving the problem. So it will not happen instantly. You have to practice it more. Try to solve more and more problems with understanding. So understandingly, suppose if you solve any problems, so in that case you will become mastery. So now let us, the solution, let D be the diameter of the bolt. In that case, as I said, the maximum load beared by the tie bar is given by, that is a P maximum is equal to resisting area multiplied by permissible stress of the tie bar, which is nothing but 400 mm square and into 20 into 20, that is 400, multiplied by Newton per mm square. So what you will get is in newtons. So this thing is very important. After everything you should write what is the Newton. That means force is there, it is Newton. Torque is there, Newton meter. So like this, or Newton millimeter. So whatever the things are there, accordingly the unit you should write it properly. And if A2 is the resisting area of each of the bolts, so then which is the A2 is equal to, then if D is the diameter of each of the bolts, shank diameter, then it is pi d square by 4. So hence the total resisting area beared by all bolts, it is given by 6 into pi d square by 4. So here I have not calculated the load on each bolt. Here we have calculated load beared by all bolts. That is one and same. So 6 into pi d square by 4 if you do it, that is the total resisting area you will get. And resisting area, total load beared by all bolts is equal to resisting load beared by the tie bar. So then equating that, that is 6 into pi d square by 4 into 75 millimeter, that is Newton per mm square, that is the stress in the bolt. That is stress in the bolt. It is the resisting load beared by the number of bolts. 6 bolts are there. This is the resisting area of each. So each bolt is pi d square by 4 area, 6 bolts. So total resisting area is for this is bolt is this one, multiplied by the area of the bolt is 75. So that you will get the resisting load, and that must be equal to the applied load. Applied load, it is nothing but the resisting load in the tie bar, in this bar. So that is 400 into 150. 400 is the area of this section multiplied by the force, that is 150 Newton per mm square, that is the stress. If you multiply it, you can find, just you have to transfer this one. When you're transferring here, it will go into the denominator, and then again you calculate this 60,000 into 4 upon 6 into 75 into pi under root of this. If you calculate it, you can get 13.029. So even 0.02 is there, it is better always go for the maximum, that is 13.5 millimeter. This is the diameter of the bolt. So now let us, we will move to the next problem, that is example 5. Just read the problem. The diameter of the piston of a steam engine is 300 mm. Diameter of the piston of the diameter is 300. The maximum steam pressure is 0.7 Newton per mm square. If the maximum permissible compressive stress for the piston rod material is 40 Newton per mm square, if the maximum permissible compressive stress for the piston rod material is 40 Newton per mm square, find the size of the piston rod. Okay, so once again let us, for understanding this, we can go for the sketch of this. So the diameter of the piston rod steam engine, this is 300. The maximum steam pressure is 0.7 Newton per mm square. Pressure is given. So that means if I know what is the D diameter, so pi d square by 4, if you do it, that area you will get it. And the maximum force which you are transmitting, that you can calculate by multiplying the internal pressure multiplied by the area. So once when you multiply pi d square by 4, where D is the diameter of this capital D, so area of the piston multiplied by the steam pressure, you can find what is the force. And if the maximum permissible compressive stress for the piston rod of the material is 40 Newton per mm square. So now where is the piston rod? Here is the connecting rod, this is the crank, and this part is nothing but a piston rod. It is in between the guide and the piston. So this is the piston rod material is 40 Newton per mm square. Find the size of the piston rod. So in piston rod, when it is said, it is not a square when it is a round section. It is the diameter only. So like this we can find what is the dimensions of this. So given data, let D be the diameter of the piston. This is the diameter of the piston is D, capital D, 300 mm. Internal pressure Pi is equal to 0.7 Newton per mm square. Maximum pressure permissible compressive stress for the piston rod material is sigma P is equal to 40 Newton per mm square. So to calculate the diameter of the piston rod, solution, let D be the diameter of the piston rod. So this is the piston rod and here the small d I have taken. Let D be the diameter of the piston rod and then maximum diameter of the piston rod. Then here applied maximum load on in the piston rod. Applied maximum load in the piston rod. Where is the piston rod? It is here. It can be calculated with the piston area multiplied with the internal pressure. As just now I said it, explained it during this one. So pi d square by 4 into the internal pressure. Again you see this must be in millimeter square and this must be Newton per mm square. That you should see it when we are using it. And by using that one, you can 300 square. It is not 3002, it is 300 square. Pi into 300 square divided by 4 into 0.7. What you get is the force. It's continued here. Sigma P is the permissible stress in the piston rod and the applied maximum load in the piston rod is given by P maximum is equal to resisting area multiplied by stress. If small d is the diameter of the piston rod, then the area is pi d square by 4, which is equal to the maximum load divided by the permissible stress of the piston rod. So what is the permissible stress? Which is 40 Newton per mm square. So taking that value, I can get what is the resisting area. Once you, after finding the resisting area, you can find it by means of taking the diameter, which is equal to under root of this. You can get around 39.68. It is 40 millimeter. So here once again just I will tell you, that means this diameter we have calculated P maximum pressure by pressure into the area, and after that you will get force, and this force is acted on this piston rod. So the resisting force in the piston rod is equal to the resisting area multiplied with the stress. Resisting area multiplied with the stress. So here, so what you will get here, P maximum resisting area is equal to P maximum, that is the load on the piston, divided by the permissible stress of the piston rod. So with that we can get what is the area, and after using this you can find what is, because this part you are knowing it, so hence you can find what is the diameter. So far in this today's session we have completed almost 4 problems. So since the time is passing, it is going more than an hour, so hence we will take a break, and the remaining problems we will solve in the next session. So in the end of the session, we will go for the concluding remarks, keeping in view to apply the fundamental concepts. So in the today's session, we solved some simple problems based on the mechanical properties. So the advanced or the simple, little bit complicated problems we will solve in the next session. So students are advised to solve some more typical or some more problems from the reference books. Thank you.